and welcome. This is Karen Newman. This is the Saturday Human Colony Hucolo Webinar. It is Saturday, September the 11th, 2021. And we have with us a very special guest. I'm very pleased to report. We have the founder with Jim Charles, the founder of Human Colony Hucolo, Mr. Max Rempel. Hi, Max. How are you?
You should call me Doctor.
Dr. Max Rempel. That's true. He's a PhD in molecular biology and
yes.
genetics, right?
Yeah, it's PhD in biology, yeah, and the specialization was molecular biology. Yes.
Okay. Well, Dr. Max Rempel. He's here with us today. So Max hasn't been around in a while because he's been really busy with his work, but it's always nice to have him here. He used to always be here on Saturdays, and so it's nice to have him back. So Max is going to start us off with some music. And well, Angie, we can do that in a moment, hon. Why don't we start with Max? We won't forget you. Angie has announcements, but we'll do that, and we'll do the opening prayers and everything in a little bit. So why don't we start off with Max, and we'll come back in just a moment. Go ahead, Max. Let me make you center.
So, yeah, it's like a meditative music for you.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Om Maya, Om Manaya, Еще, дружок, не время, еще, брат, и не пора, еще в феврале легкий запах тления кружится в воздухе, и летняя жара, она придет потом. Еще не время, не время. Брат, и не пора, к чему грустить о том, что жизнь проходит. По календарным меткам здесь еще февраль, а по московским мартушка лабродит. Еще не время, еще не время. Oh my,
lovely. So what were you singing? What was it? It was in Russian. Yes?
There was some Russian there, yes. This is a flamenco song,
Oh,
which
turn
is...
turn your reverb off.
Thank you. This is a flamenco song, which was... some of that is my melody, which came, and it's one of my favorite melodies, and some of that is Jewish, Spanish, something like that. And the words are, some of them are Russian, some of them are obviously Maha Mantra, Indian, and some of that is...
Well, I heard Ishvara. Is that right? Is that what you were saying?
I wasn't conscious of that, but it's
You
nice
said
that
it
I
was
heard
Maha Mantra. Which
it. Yeah,
mantra?
Maha Mantra for sure.
So which Maha Mantra?
Uh,
Oh, you just mean...
it's Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. This
Oh,
one,
I didn't
this
hear
one.
you singing Hare Krishna.
Of course, yeah.
I didn't hear... Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
is it called Ishvara?
Well, no, Hare Krishna. Oh, I guess you were saying Hare Krishna, but Ishvara is also a name of God. So I was hearing Ishvara, which is interesting. Because I
wasn't
know the
conscious of
Maha
that.
Mantra is Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Yeah,
So, but I was
maybe
hearing...
every one of you heard your own.
I know,
your own
maybe I did.
words.
I got it. I heard it.
You heard
But there was-
Ishvara too?
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
I heard it too.
Yeah, there was also
we were in a different timeline from you. while you were playing.
there was also Pleiadian chant from the planet called Tara.
Okay.
Nice.
It was nice. It was nice. I could see where you could really zone out. It was a very Krishna Das kind of feel to it.
Yeah, I tune into Krishna Das. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you like him. Yeah. So let me just get started with everything before we start. Let me just say who's here in the room. Welcome to everyone that's here. We've got Angie, Christine, Elga, Joan, Max, of course, Michelle, Safira, Sean, Susan, and myself, Karen Newman. And I'm sure more people will be coming in any moment. But why don't we start with the announcements before Angie has a... Angie likes to do her, and she's over there like, I gotta do the announcement. So why don't we let her start with the announcement? Go ahead.
Thank you
Angie,
very
the
much.
microphone.
We have our next class scheduled. It is White Magic Level 3, and it is Saturday and Sunday, October 23rd and 24th. And it is $175. It's from 1:30 to 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. Jim will be channeling Corkellen, who is the sixth dimensional magician, also Merlin or Merline is also has information for that too. To register for that class, please send an email to classes@hucolo.org, and I will get all the information out to you on how you can sign up for that class. We are only limiting it to 20 participants to ensure that all information is received, questions are answered. If we get more than 20 participants, then we will schedule a second class. Again, classes@hucolo.org.
Great. Thanks so much. So, Max, you brought us in with that beautiful prayer. We'll do the light language prayers at the end, but since we started with that beautiful meditation, we might as well just go right into what you wanted to talk about today. And you said to me that you wanted to talk about unity.
Uniting everything together.
Yeah. So for people who don't know, Max is the founder of Human Colony. He and Jim, through some Reiki sessions, discovered Jim was a channel. And from that, they started putting everything online. And Hucolo was really born that way. And it came from Max having lots of questions and Jim having the facility to start answering them. And it was from there everything really developed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that the story? Is that the correct story?
Oh, yeah. I don't know what should I say. Yes.
Well, because there's people here that have never met you and or seen you, and I just wanted them to know who you were and how important you are for Human Colony, basically.
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right.
You want me to expand on that?
I would
or-
like you to expand on, maybe give the story of how Human Colony started. Yes.
Started? Oh, yeah, it was a long time ago. It's spring 2013, a long time ago. Yeah, some of you weren't born then, back then, yeah. Yeah, let's go to my the main point I wanted to bring up first before we forget. So I'm working on something which is related to a DNA resonance, and that's very important for me at the
Okay, well,
moment.
tell people what you're doing and how that's what you're researching and how that came about for you.
How they hide people without videos? Should be easy, right? Oh, I found it. Okay, excellent. All right. So DNA. All of you know DNA resonance creates a wonderful holographic biofield, and that we interact through the fields. And for us, it is obvious, and for mainstream science, it is a prohibited topic. All mainstream scientists know that it's not true, and second, it's prohibited to talk about. Luckily, we can speak about that on YouTube. That topic is not censored yet, right? So what I'm working on, I was ignited into that topic in 1999, February. I visited Russia and went to my own institute, my home institute, and a woman, really nice woman, who I never spoke to her. We liked each other. We said hi, but we never had a conversation. So she came to me and said, "Here is a book. Check it out. It's something very interesting, although it's alternative science." And we asked our director of institute, which is a genius, and he said there might be some truth in it, but it's too far out. So. And that defined the rest of my research. And now, 22 years later, I'm still working on that topic. And the topic is DNA resonance, DNA vibration, DNA isolation. So I was trained to work on DNA, and we eat DNA. No, not eat. We sleep with DNA. We work with swim in DNA. All the lab is full of DNA. All our mind is about DNA. So I worked in the lab until about 10 years ago. And I was trained, and we did a lot of genotyping. We analyzed tens of thousands of people, DNA samples from volunteers. We know it's real. We know it's a real substance. And right now, here on the bench, I have a big jar of DNA. You can buy it. I bought it for $100.
Let me see. I want to see his big jar of DNA. Oh, I thought you said right here. I thought it was right behind you. I really thought it was like within reaching distance.
Can you see me here?
I can see what we know. Okay. When you talk about a genius person, sometimes he's our own Sheldon. Let me see.
I just cleaned up my bench, so it was moved to the shelf. So I wasn't exact.
I thought it was right within reaching distance.
It was there until yesterday when I cleaned everything up, and I forgot that.
I mean, if you said DNA, we want to see.
Yeah,
But was the book DNA Resonance that she gave?
Just a second, I will show it to you. Just a second. I'm already found it.
No, I'm
It was
talking
on
about
the shelf.
the book that was handed to you.
So here is real DNA. Ooh.
Is it a powder?
Yeah, it's a powder. Can you see it?
Oh, so is it basically powdered bone or?
No, it's DNA. It's pure DNA.
Salmon sperm. It
Yeah,
says.
sperm has more DNA because the sperm has to deliver DNA and everything else is not needed. So it has a tail and the DNA packed.
That's it.
Nothing else.
Wow.
So it's when you extract the DNA from the sperm, it's just it's concentrated DNA. It's easier. So that's the cheapest source of DNA, salmon sperm.
And to be not to be, but human males are the same. They're just DNA with tails. The
Yeah,
sperm.
any beings that have sperm, even plants, they have like sperm-like particles
Yeah.
that fly and it's concentrated DNA. So it's just all the cells except our red blood cells, all the cells contain DNA. Just sperm is more concentrated.
Right. So the way that, because we were talking about how, so your research is what then?
Wait a second.
You talk about
I promised you
DNA.
the jar. I have to show the jar. It's
Okay.
official. It's official. So I sent this DNA to my contractors
Yes.
to practice. So this is the practice DNA. And most of my contractors are Russians. Just happens that high qualification spectroscopists still exist in Russia, and they enjoy the Western money. So that's a good deal for me. So it's cheaper to outsource the research to Siberia. In Siberia, there is a science city. Part of it was closed for military. Now it's all open, and some institutes still survive. So that's how I do my research. That's the cheapest way to do it.
But what are you actually researching? That's the question.
Yeah. So the subject is to prove to prove that actually the biofield and is made by DNA. And to prove it, we have to actually show the mechanism. The scientists wouldn't believe anything until you show the specific mechanism. How does the DNA make the biofield? And when we say mechanism, we really need to show this atom goes here, this electron goes there, this proton goes there, and it's all can be modeled in a computer. And the science is actually advanced enough to do it. And that's what we are doing. We model the vibrations in DNA in the computer precisely atom by atom, proton by proton, electron by electron. And we show that here are in DNA, there are resonance structures, and these resonance structures are defined by the sequence of our genes. The sequence is known for 21 years since 2000.
Right.
Human genome was sequenced 6 billion bases, 6 billion letters were read, and now they are read for many species. So we have a huge public database, lots of databases. Everyone who is funded by government money or public money is obligated to publish it in public databases. So there is a lot of data.
Yeah.
And the scientists pretend that they know how to read the genome, but they know only the tiny part, which is called coding DNA, which codes for the proteins.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest we believe is coding for the biofield, and the science just blindly ignores, the mainstream science blindly ignores the function, the vibrational function of DNA, and 97% of DNA which define the vibrational function.
So Severa is a good question. She says, can you please explain for everyone here what a biofield is and why you're trying to prove this? Why is this so important for you to prove?
Yeah, we use the word biofield because it's a little less charged, but it is the same thing as aura or chakras. Biofield has chakras, which are centers of vibration, and energies, biological energies. When we say we use energies to heal, it's also part of the biofield. It's just one of unifying word, scientific word, which in capsules, which defines a big area of everything related to energies. Some of these energies are electromagnetic scientifically. So you can measure them using, I have a device somewhere, but I wouldn't promise that it's right here, but some electromagnetic measurement device.
Yeah.
And other fields we can send through the distance. We can send Reiki through the distance, and these are not measured by conventional electromagnetic measurement devices. These are, I call them non-material because they go through subspace or other dimension or etheric field, which is beyond, which is easily felt by living beings, but cannot be measured by our non-living devices.
So would that explain like why someone like a twin, one twin gets injured, the other one feels it? Would that explain that phenomena or?
Yes, great topic. There is actually a twin registry, and I actually worked in the institute and used some of the twin registry DNA. So it's a nice scientific topic that twins are genetically almost identical, all 99.9% identical. And yes, there is a big agreement between twins, and they are sort of connected even when they're separated very early in the childhood. And how to explain this, it's an open question. It's hard to prove it, but I think the science is pretty close to explaining it through quantum mechanics. And in quantum mechanics, there is a phenomenon which is reasonably studied. It's called quantum entanglement. It was postulated about 7 years ago, and there are now experiments on small experimental systems with elementary particles when they show quantum entanglement. So when things are separated, they're still connected to each other. So maybe the twins are connected not through the etheric field, not through the waves through the field, but they just quantum entangled because they were part of the same cell at some moment. So maybe that's how. But also,
so could DNA resonance prove quantum entanglement? Maybe.
So quantum entanglement is a proven concept.
Or could it explain it more, maybe then?
Yeah, it can explain some of the DNA resonance, but I don't think it's not the whole phenomenon. The whole phenomenon is more complex. It's you have to like really build a science around it. Some of the concepts are don't yet have names. So when we work on DNA resonance, we have to create lots of new names for the phenomena which we observe.
Right. So basically in DNA resonance, you can show like the intention of Reiki and how that is moving from the person giving the Reiki to another person, but even Reiki at a distance. Would that be something that you would be able to prove through DNA resonance or not?
Great question. So
or is that
let's separate the Reiki which goes locally here when I touch someone or I'm very close to that person, and Reiki which goes through the big distance. I think the mechanisms are partly the same and partly different, because when you do Reiki to a person close to you, there is a lot more going on, a more local phenomenon.
Right.
And I write about that in my papers. I devoted to that maybe a page or so, saying that, let's separate biofield effects that are local and biofield effects which happen through the distance. And local, you can close your eyes and you can still feel the field. You don't have to really open the eyes. You can tell where the person is, tell where the chakras are, or at least some chakras is hard to detect, but some energy you can feel locally. You can move the hand and you can actually feel it's located in certain space. So there is some biofield which is local. And yet it passes through barriers, electromagnetic fields usually are blocked by water and conductors and metal. So you can still put a person behind an impermeable wall and still feel the energies from that person.
Right.
So that means that it's local, but not electromagnetic in standard sense. So that's kind of science we do, and my main approach is to do chemistry, computational chemistry, computational modeling of DNA structures. That is something very substantial. The DNA structure is well described, well researched. It is something where we can start at something very solid. I showed you that the DNA is tangible, and the structure of DNA is very tangible. It's not something ethereal like biofield. And then another tangible thing is the sequence. The sequence is pretty consistent. You can now sequence pretty inexpensively lots of people or lots of animals, and that's what we are using in our research. So we take the chemical structure of DNA, which is tangible, take the sequence, which is tangible, and show that first that we evolved to support resonating structures, which we predict in the structure. So we look at the structure, we say, here is a so-called proton wire, and it is a very nicely shaped thing that would resonate, oscillate and resonate, meaning it's like, DNA is like a smartphone or radio. We can show the electric circuits within a molecule, which would behave like electric circuits and would behave like a radio to send out the signals. We demonstrate that these circuits are defined by the sequence. It's very, through computer modeling, we show the structures in our publications. We show the structure and say, this is likely how the DNA works as a radio. It sends the signals, receives the signals. And also we predicted certain computational abilities of the DNA. It works like a computer. It can do logical operations, logical and intuitive. I was very excited to find the intuitive part of that computer. So DNA works as a computer, except it has intuition.
The DNA itself has intuition?
Yeah, every letter of it, yes.
Okay, so every letter of the DNA has its own awareness, would you say? Would you say intuition or awareness?
I said intuition.
Mm-hmm.
I think awareness is much more complex. Intuition is something which is basically ethereal. I mean, it has a state of certainty,
Yeah.
and then it goes into state of uncertainty. It kind of goes from a particle to a wave, to the particle to a wave. It oscillates back and forth. And this frequency of oscillation is very high, but basically every letter of DNA oscillates between being certain to being uncertain and back. And when it's uncertain, that's intuitive state. When it's a heart state. When it's certain, it's a mind state. So every letter of DNA goes from logical to heart to logical to heart. That's what I mean. Intuition. It has every letter goes into certain, and then there is uncertainty where all the letters behave as unity. So many letters together, they create a certain cloud, which is delocalized. It's a cloud. It's a vibration. So it goes into vibration and then into certainty and goes back and forth. So that was my structural. Go ahead.
What influences? So does the DNA have an intention, or does it only have intuition?
Oh yeah, excellent.
Stop, Thomas. Sorry, my dog's about to bark. Stop. Okay.
So you intuitively feel that the dog is about to bark. Okay.
Well, a skateboarder went by and he takes that personally, so he has to bark at them as they go by.
Skateboard.
I don't like it.
Nice. So yeah, our dogs like to bark at Amazon
he
deliveries.
just came up to say hello.
Hey,
That's Tommy.
another
So
hair.
he has so my question was, does the DNA have intention, or is it reactive only, or is it also creative? I know it's an element of creation, but does it have an intention? Because what does DNA want, or does DNA have a want? I guess that's my question. And then my follow-up question was going, how if you're trying to prove the resonance, I believe, because you're trying to show how maybe intention can be transmitted through DNA. Is that correct?
Great. Great question. Yeah. So we don't know. We don't know. But in my model, there is a place for that as well.
Okay.
Basically, first thing to say is I believe that DNA is a portal. And when you say portal, we mean it's a door or a window between the material world and the supernatural world, the spiritual world.
Okay.
So the soul, the big part of the soul exists out there in the spiritual world, and it works through. And now I know that the spiritual world is so complex, so big, and our material world is so tiny and limited.
Mhm.
So if you know how our material world is complex, the spiritual world is way more complex. It has way more stuff around that.
Mhm.
By going there and seeing, you get wow, how big it is and how much is involved in creating that illusion of that limited physical space. So there is a big soul which is connected to this tiny body through the DNA, and the DNA is in every cell, and I calculated there is about half a pound of DNA in the body. It's, what I showed is a little bit, but the body has about half a pound of this dry substance. So it is in every cell, 6 picograms in every cell, and it is a doorway, the portal between the other world and this world. So the soul plugs in here, and my understanding is that the DNA is driving us through time. It creates an experience of time. So you cannot have a wish or intention until you have an illusion of time. So when you say awareness is one question, another question, intention. So to have an intention, you have to have a perception of ego that I want something. If you are everything, you cannot have intention because everything is everything.
That's why if you have the full realization of being the divine, you cease to be.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Exactly. That's my point.
Yeah.
So the soul, which is, maybe the soul also has its own intentions, but when it comes into this body, it's dragged through that timeline, through the time by the processes in DNA. So quantum physics, at least some of the quantum physicists say that at the sizes of molecules like DNA, like letters of DNA, time ceases to exist. There is no time there. Things happen, but that linear progression of time is not there.
Mm-hmm.
But when you consider the molecule which is bigger, the DNA is pretty big molecules. Then the time is created, and that process of dragging through time of this bigger piece of DNA is created. So the soul uses DNA like skis to slide down the hill.
Okay.
Or maybe how do you say elevator? And when you have the ski resort, is it elevator? How do you call it?
It's the ski lift.
Ski lift. So the soul uses the DNA as a ski lift to be dragged through life. And when a person dies, the soul disconnects, DNA remains, but it's not anymore vibrating. It's kind of becomes dead DNA.
Right.
And that experience of being dragged through life disappears, and you become free. Mm. So the intention, I don't know, I guess, is an illusion which is created for us by that experience of the soul being dragged through life. Well, then we can have intentions, yes.
The reason I asked the question is because my feeling is always, if someone knows that DNA is the mechanism by which this happens, the obvious question is, how do you influence it? How do you control it? How do you utilize it to your greatest advantage? That would be the question. And not from the complete ego standpoint, but living your best life, creating the best world you can be, creating the best whatever. I would think that would be the next logical question of, how do you influence DNA? Can you influence DNA? Or is DNA is, when a new person is created, it's like a crapshoot as to who gets what. What is my sequence versus your sequence? I mean, we have as the basis, we're human form, but I have my own genetic DNA from my ancestors and you as well. And they can be very, very different. So my question is, what is the next step? Once you prove this, where does it go from here? What is the end game, I guess?
Thank you. So there are two questions.
Is that a valid question, or am I misunderstanding the
There are two valid questions here. I mean, there are lots of valid questions, but two major ones, and some of that is obviously I don't know, but some of that I at least I will pronounce. So one question is, what do you personally do with your DNA, right? And second question is what we collectively do with the discovery.
Yeah.
Personally, it's a big topic, but basically you are defined by that sequence in large extent, but also there is more. Genetics is only part of your experience.
Right.
And part of that is past lives. And in the past lives, you had different DNA. You might have had be an alien, so it would be very different DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And you might have been a star. You would have some sort of DNA, but it would be plasma DNA, very different chemically. It wouldn't be in a star. The DNA cannot exist in a molecule. Molecules are divided into plasma in the star. So you cannot be your past lives were very different. Mm-hmm. But I think when the soul incarnates, it has say how to combine the father's and mother's DNA. So all the DNA which comes into the body, unless you have an alien infusion, all the DNA that comes into the body normally would be from the father and the mother in about 50-50 ratio. But the soul has a choice which ones to pick, and because what is random from here is a choice from there. So they can choose and combine whatever they want.
Right.
Now, what do you do with it?
Yeah.
I don't think you would do much anything different, except you would respect your genetic sequence more and would be worried about others messing up your genetic sequence. But other than that, I think you would do the same. You would, my understanding that health is an amount of coherence in DNA. Coherence is just a scientific word for harmony. So health is harmony in your DNA, in your cells, in your water in the cells, in your proteins. But the water and proteins, they change from the DNA stays there for longer time. So it's a collective health of all the components, but DNA plays a very important role, a guiding role there. The sequence defines a lot. So yeah, that's as much as I can say about the personal. And also it's a relationship to death. I mean, to life and to death, right? Because you realize your soul is eternal, but that experience is limited by that body which has that DNA. So you live this life, then you leave that body, and there will be a lot of freedom, but this life will end. There will be no experience of this specific life. You cannot change. After you leave the body, you cannot change anything in this experience. I don't think so.
No, it's like a book that is finished.
Yeah, the movie that is finished. The recording, stop the recording, stop the broadcast. It's done.
Yeah.
You possibly can come back and edit a little bit, but
so basically then what you're proving is not something that would be something someone could affect, but more understanding the mechanism of how it works. Is that what you're proving?
All right. So that's about personal relation to this. To this, after you understand that DNA is a portal to the soul, you just know it, and that's about it. You pray to it, you talk to it, you meditate on it, you live healthy life, and pay attention to the coherence in your DNA or harmony in your DNA. That's about it.
You talked
But
about
now-
someone could mess up your DNA. How would that happen? How would someone mess up your DNA?
Oh, that is a censored topic. We cannot talk about that on YouTube.
Okay. And as far as how someone would improve their DNA, how would they do that?
Usual ways, like whatever you do for health, you just, it affects the DNA. It's all
So
about,
eating healthy, being happy, not sad, drinking water, living a vibrant life, that makes your DNA better.
I assume so, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just put equal sign between health and harmony of DNA. The sequence doesn't change, but there is a so-called epigenetic changes. It's a structure which is living structure. It has its own, it folds and folds in each cell. It exists in harmony and tight vibrational connection with the water and proteins in the cell. So it's all united structure, and health is amount of coherence there, order, harmony, and energies. I mean, you don't really have to have, it's not the static order, it's a living order when energies come, water come, nutrients come and go through. DNA stays there, but everything else goes through. And DNA sort of keeps that structure restructuring. So there is always a play between Brahma and Shiva, right? A creator and a destroyer. In the cell, it's very visible.
Yeah.
Mainstream science understands that there is always a process of synthesizing structures, creating structures, and destroying structures. So that process is energy driven, and you cannot really freeze it. Freezing is death. You have to really keep it with energy. So one of the key understandings is from that model is that protection is not everything. You have to really move forward.
Right. Michelle has a question. We'll go. Some people have some questions, so we should take them. Michelle, do you want to ask your question?
Yes. Hi, Max. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Michelle.
Hi. I just I heard from the medical medium. I purchased one of his books, and what he said was, when you grow anything, he gave the example of tomatoes. When you grow tomatoes, let's say, the DNA in the tomatoes knows what your body needs and will adjust itself to fulfill that need. I just found that so interesting. Could you comment on that?
All right. So this statement, let me repeat it, that when you deal with a plant, with the agricultural plant, right, the whole complex of you, the system of you and the plant is serving the purposes of your life mission. And basically the plants actually serve you, unite with you to serve your mission. It's a very, statement is goes very strongly against the materialistic point of view, right? Point of view. It's very super mystical. It's very mystical, very, very supernatural. Basically, the idea is that the universe, I mean, at least parts of the universe, parts of something which is outside of your body, actually helps you in your mission. I think that sounds pretty nicely. It's I think the whole world around us is designed to help us to perform, to learn our lessons and learn our mission. Now, I see that some of the things that happen that actually help the health, and some of the lessons that happen, they kind of are challenges. I mean, lots of things that happen around, they don't actually, they're not pleasant. They don't make me healthier and happier. They make me suffer, and they bring pain and and destruction and chaos. Like recently, things broke here, things broke there, so things break. And some of the foods are poisonous. And so there is a balance. Some things help us, and some things help us to suffer and learn lessons. So it's not, so my conclusion, even taking the supernatural point of view, spiritual point of view, it's even tomatoes can become poisonous. So it's balance. It's a balanced thing. There is like a trickster that makes our life moderately challenging. I would say, in general, generalizing everything, I think the world we experience is an illusion, which is maximized to create as much drama as possible. So I think even tomatoes participate in that challenge. They create as much drama as possible. And it's usually that drama is created around us, which helps us to learn the main lessons and to evolve in a specific direction. I think, if you haven't heard yet, maybe everybody already know, but there is a so-called hero's journey. Just put it in quotation marks and Google hero's journey, and Wikipedia article is enough. Essentially, someone discovered that it actually was in Hollywood, not far from here, I think in the 50s, that all the successful movies and cartoons follow the same pattern, and they formalize that pattern. And the pattern is best recognized in Harry Potter, Fellowship of the Rings, all those epic movies about big events where it's like a huge catastrophic event, and then the hero, which is weak, like Frodo, right? Frodo is weak and doubting and afraid, and but nice. And he goes and becomes a hero. And at some point, they have to go through challenges, and friends and teachers help us to go through challenges. Then there is this mystical death and resurrection. So we go through the Jesus's. Jesus also went through that, right? Friends and teachers. I guess God was the teacher, and John the Baptist. So friends and teachers help him, but then he goes by himself through death, resurrection, and creates a miracle. And then there is a resurrection, and something happens after that. But basically, that hero's journey is the main pattern in the movies, in books, in cartoons, and also in life. So every one of us goes through this hero's journey, and it looks like this life, which is an illusion, is optimized to create as much drama to make this hero's journey as exciting as possible and give us the opportunity to actually evolve and go through that transformation. Did I answer your question?
Yes, that was awesome. Thank you very much.
There was a previous question which I didn't thank you, and there was a previous question which I wanted to finish. So the second question of Karen was how that discovery would change the world, right? How it would affect the society. I think the main hope is that discovering that DNA actually resonates and creates a biofield, creates biological signaling, creates the shape of the body through biofield, will finally break the materialistic worldview, because it's really hard to remain materialistic. Quantum mechanics already broke electromagnetic fields, which are used by technology, and quantum mechanics should have proven people as a collective that materialistic worldview is wrong, but somehow they still stay in the materialistic worldview. It's kind of a dogma which doesn't use logic. It's just a dogma. But I think when you understand that life is full of resonances, then it should open the floodgate, should open the gate to understanding that once you understand the biofields, it's much closer to understanding the spirituality as a whole. So I think it's that discovery might break the materialistic worldview and make the science and the worldview of the humanity much more coherent. Basically, lots of people are spiritual, but they kind of have that spirituality and materialism separated. So everyone has, especially Western people, they have like very split personality. One part is very materialistic, and another part is very spiritual. And this part just talk to each other, and sometimes they exist without even talking to each other. So lots of people keep their spirituality separate, but materialism is, I don't know, when I speak to light workers, it's different. I went to some festival where I met a whole bunch of young people who grew up like their parents were light workers, so they grew up from very beginning as light workers and as people completely new agers, born new agers, which is very interesting. So they speak the different language. So for them, the life starts from spiritual, and then everything else kind of grows on that life, on that worldview. But most of us were brought up materialistic, and then spirituality is kind of added to our materialistic, very logical worldview. So I think that would be the main first impact is blending and making peace between the material part and the spiritual part. They are blended, and the DNA is in the middle. The spirit connects to the physical through the DNA. When it's, when we discover that, when it's demonstrated, it will be obvious, and then you can see that the whole world is a mixture of two. And on practical purposes, I think we are moving towards therapies which are vibrational therapies. So now sound therapies and light therapies and electromagnetic therapies, they exist, but they kind of far from medicine. They're separate. They're more like alternatives. Mm-hmm. And I think that is another barrier where alternative medicine can be blended with mainstream. It becomes mainstream. So in many ancient societies and in many alien societies, they use a lot of vibrational medicine as a main course. I know Pleiadians use pharmaceuticals, but still they are very knowledgeable, and they use vibrational as well. In the current medicine, they use optical imaging, like MRI imaging, some sort of they use vibrational things for diagnostics, but they don't use it for treatment, except few minor exceptions. They use TENS, which is transcutaneous electron. I forgot what it is, but TENS is electric pulses. So they use electric pulses, but these vibrational treatments, they don't use natural frequencies. So they don't talk to the body in natural frequencies. So understanding the frequency, understanding the research, and understanding the mechanisms of biofield formation, it would be much easier to understand, to formulate the natural frequencies and to talk to the body in its own frequencies. So that is not discovered yet. That is to be discovered. But there are some devices, but they are empirical. There is no mechanism. They just try different frequencies, and some of them work better, like 7.1 millimeter, 42.1 gigahertz is one of the magic frequencies. It opens some portals, some of the.
That's where mantra comes in. Mantra and sound frequency comes in, because mantra, especially some of the Sanskrit words, they hold a certain vibration, and they always talk about it works on the subtle level. Some of the the Sanskrit mantra. Would be interesting. There's a lot of studies on how Sanskrit mantra chanting, all that stuff, how it affects the body and affects the world around it.
Yeah, I do mantras, and they help, but we don't know the mechanism.
No.
It's all hidden. It's all deeply hidden. Yeah, there are I Ching, Kabbalah, and Tarot, which all go into the nature of the matrix. It goes deeper than DNA. I think some of that is about quantum mechanics, how the matrix is constructed. So they explain some of that, but how specifically this mantra becomes functional, how does it work? We don't know. It just works, right?
Well, they say in Hinduism that the mantra is, in fact, the energy itself. So if you're chanting to Ganesha or to Hare Krishna, when you say Hare Krishna, you're not just saying the words, you are embodying the energy that is that vibration. That the vibration, that there's no difference between the mantra and the energy with which it represents. It is, in fact, that vibration in form of words, form of sound. And so there's no differentiation, just like the Ganga river is the goddess Ganga in the form of a river, but it's no less divine. And that's the same with mantra. When you say Hare Krishna or Om Namah Shivaya, you are saying, so you are, and I had an epiphany this morning as I was chanting Om. I got the word of knowledge that when you, because they they say that chanting Om is a liberation mantra, and that Om is what everything is. The Om, the sound, is all that is. It's embedded, just like you say, DNA is embedded in every cell. Well, Om is embedded in everything, and because it is everything. And when you chant that vibration, you are joining that pure awareness. And it's, so maybe that there's something to it in that way, but that's a totally different subject than DNA, but I think they're related on some level. We have another question from Safira. Go ahead, Safira.
Thank you. I want to go back to when you were talking about health, Max, and the DNA. You probably know that Angelina Jolie did a double mastectomy not mastectomy, what do you call that when you take the breast off when you have cancer? Anyway, she did that because she got a reading from her DNA that she had the potential for cancer. And so they also say if you know what your DNA is reading, then you can take precautious measures. I'm not saying that was right, wrong, good, or bad. I'm just saying that was a result of her getting a reading. So one of my questions is, would it be possible, like, when we're born, that a DNA reading is given and the parents can see, or maybe young adult finds out what their DNA is all about, and they can circumvent certain illnesses, or they can change the way they live because of it? Is it cheap or inexpensive and is it even technically possible for each person to get a DNA reading of what all of their potentials are as far as health is concerned?
Gosh. Yeah. So DNA analysis is about $100. You can do it on in a few services. 23andMe was the first one, but there were now there is MyHeritage and several more. They tell you very little. So basically, the chemical analysis gives you, they don't read the whole DNA, they read only maybe a few hundred variations out of 11 million. So it's a very primitive analysis. And even if they read all the 11 million variations, which are normal for humans, we don't know how to interpret them. no, very little can be told. They can tell you your racial origins, and some people discover that they might have, like, say, American Indian or some other unexpected genetic histories. But other than that, there is very little you can get from there. So I did mine, but I was disenchanted. I didn't find anything interesting, except now I have the second. So after many years, I have one branch of ancestors without DNA analysis going down to the 10th century, Granada, Spain, the Jews. There was Grand Vizier of Granada who was killed in the uprising, a rabbi. At that time, it was a Muslim rule, and he was basically appointed ruler of the city.
Mhm.
But his children escaped and continued the line. And in that line, there is Maharal of Prague, the creator of the golem. And another line goes now to 17th century in Belarus, also the Jews. Russian line is not as well researched just because the last name is not unique there, and Russians just are not that keen on Russia. Actually, there was a period where it was very dangerous to keep the history of genealogical history, because you might have been connected to royalties or noblemen, so that then would put you in danger. All noblemen were extinguished, so people learned not to transfer their history to children. So Russian research is very rudimentary, but the Jewish was easier. So other than that, there is not much. I mean, then you say if it is a psychic reading on DNA, of course, focusing on DNA, I think is very interesting. But again, I mean,
Angelina Jolie had a medical, her mother died of a cancer, and she had her genes checked to see if she carried the same gene. It was a genetic test that she had.
I
Oh.
see.
It
I
wasn't
don't know
a-
what's the difference.
She didn't have
Yeah,
a
I never.
she
Oh
had
yeah,
a-
I never. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's
Sorry,
okay,
go
but
ahead.
she didn't have a reading. She had genetic testing done to see if she carried the same gene for a very deadly cancer that her mother died of at a very young age. And it starts in the breast, but it's also uterine. And so she made the elective decision to have her breast removed and her uterus removed preemptively in order to try to not get this cancer. But it was
Yeah.
she was tested to see if she has a genetic predisposition for this cancer, and she did. And there's a
Okay.
lot of women that have done that, but it wasn't a reading.
Okay, so what I'm asking, yeah, thank you. So first of all, I'm probably confused between the difference between our genes and our DNA. That would be one thing. And the other thing would be is, yes, if it's possible to ever get a DNA reading as far as, or is it the genes that are read from the DNA, as far as our health prognosis is for the future, like when somebody's born? That's what I was wondering about. But maybe I'm just confusing genes and DNA.
So DNA is a substance, and I showed you that substance. It's a substance.
Yeah.
And each cell has chromosomes, and when I put all the sequences of the chromosomes in one line, it's 6 billion bases. And what is called genes is usually the parts of the DNA which code for proteins. So DNA sequence has genes in it. So these are, if you take a book that can have lots of interesting stuff, but they also would have very specific instructions. Do that, like test commandments. So genes are commandments in the book. So genes are commandments in the genome. Genome is the whole DNA sequence. Genes are commandments, and the whole genome is made of a substance called DNA. It's very specific, tangible substance. So your second question, or other question was, would it help to do a reading? I mean, analysis, chemical analysis, and analyze your DNA sequence and predict something.
Mhm.
So I would say eventually we'll get there. So far, it's whatever these companies do, they are obligated to say that it's not medical advice,
Mhm.
because the science about actually being able to predict something is very the prediction capacity is very poor. So even if you have those mutations, the chances are very uncertain. So I think maybe that people who do the preemptive surgeries, they might overreact a bit. But I don't know. It's if you start studying that topic, you might find that the chances are, say, 25% or 15% or 60%.
Chances of this
Mhm.
cancer are about 100%. If you carry the gene,
100% with the gene.
yeah,
Yeah,
with
then
that
it makes sense.
particular cancer.
Yeah, if and in that case, I mean, if it's 100%, then yes, of course.
Okay. And Max, I had another question, if I may, which goes towards something else about the DNA. Because from what I understand, we have 2 strands of DNA as in the 3rd dimension and 3 strands of DNA in the 4th dimension. And I'm assuming that 3rd strand and junk DNA and forwards have more to do with DNA resonance, or is it possible for a 2-stranded human to gain the 3rd strand while still in the 3rd dimension that you know of? How's that part of the is that part of the research about interdimensional DNA?
Right. So let's divide it into what we know from the traditional science, mainstream science, and physically we don't see any place for the 3rd strand. It wouldn't fit into the double helix. The triple strand just doesn't have enough space to fit there. Maybe little pieces here and there, but not the whole strand. It just wouldn't fit. So physically, I don't think there is a chance for the 3rd strand. Now, for the other dimensions, mainstream science knows nothing about it, like zero, nothing, absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So all we know is from channelings, and that question I asked many times from different, whenever we speak about DNA, and we speak about DNA very often. And yeah, that's always the answer, that the other strands are higher dimensional, and it's not clear if they actually are bound or they kind of separate. I don't know that, but it's possible that it's like they are all together. They kind of go in parallel in our dimension, our 2 strands, and other strands in other dimensions. It's possible, but that's as far. Whatever you pronounce is as far as I got. I didn't get any farther.
Okay.
So there is not much more. With all my interest in that topic, I don't have much to add. It's likely, and I don't know what to do with it. The whole idea of ascension, yeah, the topic of ascension also like is tightly bound. Like there is a whole story about ascension, and that we can ascend as a collective, as a whole civilization, or we can ascend individually, like pop out of this world and get somewhere in our shiny, energized body, higher dimensional body. So most of that comes from Jim, but there are other sources. So I'm kind of check Jim's messages with the other sources. So there is that planet. Is it Taraha? I think it's called Taraha, where the humanity is eventually moved when it ascends. And it already is populated with some of their ascended people, and some of their yogis and Tibetan masters and some other enlightened beings. They were able to shift directly from in the whole body, shift directly to there. But for us, it looks like our path is we have to die here and then born there. be born there. It's not that we shift as others. We are too heavy. We are too heavy. We are too polluted to be able to shift.
Mhm.
So that's my feeling, that story that, other civilizations did it. Bashar's civilization said, a Jesus-like being came to us. In 3 days, he united us into a grid, into a unity, and that shifted us into a new dimension. So some civilizations do that just like that, just as a whole living organism. And for us, it doesn't look like it's coming anytime soon, that shift, in terms of just all of us just boom and born and just in these bodies to move into the new planet. It doesn't look like, from channelings again. Channelings usually say, no, it will take forever, to take a few hundred years, average 200 years, and you will have to die here and be born there to actually get into the new planet. And then another question was, what will happen to this planet? And they say, the hybrids want to take it over. So basically, lots of hybrids land here and start mingling with us, and they are fine with living in 3D. So, and I don't know what would be even more interesting. Maybe the drama here is more interesting than the paradise there.
Thank you, Max. I appreciate your answer to that. Thank you.
And obviously, there is a competition. Which hybrids want to live here? Like, is it like Pleiadian shiny ones or reptilian? And reptilians, the message comes very often that reptilians would prefer to make this planet, terraform this planet, make it hotter, warmer, and have lots of mud.
Okay, thank you.
Karen, you were saying something before you did took the question of Michelle, and what was that? There was a nice thought which you sort of.
I wanted to about meditation, or no, I don't remember.
All right, okay. There was
You remember asked me
something very interesting, but I slipped my mind. Sorry.
Was it about DNA?
Yeah. You said something about DNA, but then removed the topic. Okay.
Well, if you remember, we'll revisit it because I don't remember. Joan has a question.
All right.
Go ahead, Joan. Can you ask it, or do you need me to ask it?
I'll keep notes.
Oh, by the way, I said that Angelina, I was looking it up. Angelina Jolie had an 87% chance.
Okay.
But that's still close to 100.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Sorry.
87 is a lot.
She figured, because she has all her kids, she wasn't going to risk it. And actually the benefit has been that there's been a lot of women who may or may not have that genetic predisposition, but have found other ones that they have. And, if it's like the whole thing of, if you know that it's possible, then maybe it's good to take steps.
I don't know. I'm always suspicious of conspiracy. Maybe they just want to sell your insurance. Oh, why
she's
not?
A celebrity who had a tragedy, who wanted to avoid a tragedy for herself. And she brought awareness to the possibility of, of course, everyone can always exploit stuff, but I don't think it's a conspiracy. She carries a gene that is.
There was that black singer who became, who wanted to surgically become white. What was his name?
You mean Michael Jackson?
Yeah. I think it was.
Michael Jackson had vitiligo.
Oh, I don't know this story.
People accused him of wanting to become white, but he had vitiligo. And he'd had it since he was a little boy. It started on his stomach and then slowly spread all over his.
But
that's a conspiracy.
But what I see is that surgeons love to offer you something which you don't need. Like, let's cut out something.
Yeah, surgeons do some, especially cosmetic ones, tend to exploit things. Yeah. But anyway, okay. So Joan wants to know, is it possible that the sun can change your DNA just by sitting in the sun 20 minutes a day?
Oh, I just see my tan. I
Yes.
was hiding from sun all the years until now. I'm now 58. So finally, in the year 58, I was so desperate. I wanted to heal, and I tried sun therapy, and it actually works great. So yeah, like, but you want the sun which is soft and gentle. So morning and evening is better. Yeah.
Well, the sun gives your body vitamin D, and vitamin D is one of the things that is a very important vitamin for preventing so many diseases. But does it change your DNA? I don't know. I don't know if that's the case, or if it gives you the nutrient of vitamin D.
The whole science is so skewed towards nutrition and chemistry. I think vibration is so much more important and is overlooked. So I think the sun energy is so much healthier. If you do the same irradiation through artificial light, I don't think you will get the same effect.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I think you have to have it naturally from the sun, and I think the effect is mostly vibrational. The light goes pretty deep, like about 1.5 inch into the body, and I think it's mostly vibrational.
You have to.
So
You need to have your face and at least this much of your arms visible to the sun in order to get the best benefit.
yeah, ideally the whole body.
Oh, do you go
Yeah.
running naked down the beach now? Is that your thing?
I wear like shorts, like that, shorts.
Okay, that's too much of
And also guitar is always on the way, so I have to turn the sun this way, and guitar kind of hold it like that.
But the question was, does the sun change your DNA?
What
There's
was
benefits
I
to
wanted? Yeah, right. Yeah, I wanted to say
Does it
something
change your
about the
DNA?
sun. Yeah, natural. Yeah, yeah. Before going to that, I wanted to mention that I studied the UV carcinogenesis on mice.
Mhm.
It was very unfortunate. I hated that work because I had to like make the mice suffer and look how the cancer tumors grow on their skin.
Mhm.
But it's a great model in terms of science. It's you can really absorb cancer growing, and you can create it very easily using UV and absorb it growing, and then try to treat it. So I was published a paper trying to treat it with red light, 660 nanometers,
Mhm.
and the effect was moderate. I hope that there will be like a cure. You use magical red light, and then cancer disappears. It didn't disappear. It actually first it grew a little bigger because red light is invigorating. Here is my red light therapy device.
Mhm.
Come on, why is it turned off? It's unplugged. Hold on a second. Things change here every day. So here,
Okay.
it's very therapeutic. Half an hour a day, twice a day of that light, especially if you move it around, is great.
Is it a special light or is it just light that's red?
It's sold for growing marijuana. If you shine this on marijuana, it changes something, make it bother something. So you can actually kind of it's okay. It just don't look straight at it, but it's okay. It's pretty safe. And actually, yeah, there are different forms of it, but that's the cheapest way. It's like $30 for that, and you're cured from everything.
Really?
It helps for pay. We're not supposed to give medical advice, but the
No, but
scientists
about
say
a certain area we're not supposed to talk about.
the scientists say no. Even that, I have to clearly say there are publications suggesting that it's very efficient for arthritis, and you shine it on the joint and
Mhm.
also around, because lymphatic vessels and lymphatic nodes that drain that joint are outside of it. So they
Right.
here. So you go bigger area. And also it treats the blood as well. So arthritis and pain are the same, and also mood disorders. So if you want to be happier, get red light. But if you go into the sun, and the sun filters through your blood, it becomes the red color. It filters. So if sun goes through your palm, you can see on the other side if you can see red.
That's
So
red.
so
Kind of light. Yeah.
it goes through red. So our outer tissue, filters it to red, and red goes inside. So sun produces the same red light effect. I think there is more than that, but this red light effect is also very important. Still, I didn't get to the point. The point is that when I do cancer studies, and it's well known, it's called, I forgot the name, but the effect is that if you do sun tanning first day and the second day and the third day get sunburn, because the cells kind of become way more sensitized to the UV. So make sure that you don't do it every day until you know your proper dosing and timing. So really, if you want good tanning, you want first day 20 minutes, second day maybe 5 minutes, third day 1 minute, and until you get certain level of tan, and then you can gradually increase it back. Because otherwise you just synthesize the cell and you get sensitized and you get sunburn, and sunburn is getting producing DNA mutations and skin cancer. So you don't want to get skin cancer, you want very healthy, uninflamed skin. But when it's healthy and uninflamed, certain amount of soft sunlight in the morning and evening is great. So there is also a certain art, and also be very cautious about your eyes. Wear sunglasses because eyes suffer from UV a lot. It's precautions. It's not instructions medical, but precautions for UV therapy, light therapy, sun therapy. About the DNA, we don't know. Very little is known about DNA, except it's when you make a solution, it's transparent. It doesn't absorb visible light, and that absorbs UV really, really strongly. So all the DNA that comes through, all the UV that comes through from the sun is absorbed by the top layer of skin, which is called epidermis. And epidermis is like whiter, and under epidermis there is red tissue, which is called dermis. So all the UV is absorbed on the very, very top level. And it does, some of it causes DNA mutations, which are negative, bad. So you want to get the good side of the sunlight, and you don't want to get bad side of the sun. As a red-haired person, I am especially sensitive to light. So if you're sensitive to light, you have to really adjust the dose to get it right.
You know what's interesting about redheaded people is they make their own vitamin D. Do you know that? And they don't need to get it from the sun. I'm a chemist who has so turned into vibration. So whenever I hear about vitamins, drugs, chemicals, I'm blocked. I'm not interested in anything. Yeah, but vitamin D is an essential. I mean, it's a good thing. I mean, I don't. Why are you against vitamin D?
No. I'm not against it. I want my attention is only on vibrations. I don't want to think about it.
Just so you know.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, yeah, I don't know. I think
to answer your question, it's no. The sun does not change your DNA. It will change topically your skin. It can affect the working of your cells, but it doesn't technically change DNA. I would follow with the question. DNA.
I'm still sort of. The answer is we don't know, but I think that it's all right. Here is my theory. It's still being developed, and I don't have much.
It's a theory,
evidence.
not a fact, by the way.
Oh yeah. Science doesn't know anything about it.
Okay, science doesn't have any idea about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So first, what we can say is DNA. Visible light passes through DNA. DNA doesn't even notice it. But let's go directly to the idea. The idea is that we are warm-blooded. The heat in our body is an essential part of the biofield. It's physical. Warmth heat consists of molecular vibrations plus electromagnetic vibrations. Electromagnetic vibrations are infrared radiation. You know, infrared radiation. It's heat radiation. Yeah, like that is sometimes if you heat up the pan, the frying pan, you can feel with the phase that heat from the pan. There is nothing visible, but you can see this infrared radiation. You can feel it on your eyes and your face.
Right.
So infrared within the body carries, according to Max, carries the important biological information. It is a huge part of biofield. It is a huge part of health. So good heat is good, and the heat from the sun is also good. And what happens is that there is a phenomenon called quantum entanglement, meaning that when two entities, two subjects, connect through some waves, they quantum entangle. So resonance is when it happens through sound or electromagnetic waves, but it also can happen through infrared. So they become quantum entangled, and then they're tied to each other. So when you're exposed to sun rays, you quantum entangle with the sun. And the coherence of the sun as a living being and coherence of you as a living being become entangled.
Right.
And also when you hug someone and you exchange the warmth, you become quantum entangled. So their health becomes your health becomes their health. So when you pass through the food through yourself, the vibration in the food quantum entangles with you. So that is the main source. So not only chemicals as nutrition, but also vibration of the food which absorb the sun vibration. Now it quantum entangles with you. It brings the coherence into you. So healthy food which grew actually under natural sun is so healing because it connects you to the sun vibration, also connects you to the biosphere vibration. You become quantum entangled with a green biosphere around the planet. So I think that can become a part of therapy when we understand it better, and we actually can use technology to pump the good quantum entangled energy from outside into the body and keep our body energized with good harmonious energy. And the same thing, we can protect ourselves from the disharmonious energy. So when we quantum entangle with a television set or a computer monitor or the news or something else, you become distorted and you become self-destructive. And the DNA is a huge part of that. It is, I think there might be some, our DNA is the same shape. It's not different sequence, but it's the same shape as the DNA of all living beings. So I think it is very essential for us to be within the nature and be quantum entangled with the nature, with the DNA of the other living beings, especially the healthy ones. And another topic is water. Also, I think water is a special magic living being, especially the big bodies of water like ocean and rivers and lakes. And I think there is something in the water which is, I don't know yet, which is also has DNA structures in it without chemically having DNA. So I think water can quantum entangle with us and resonate with us. So there is the water within us and the water outside. They somehow can interact through some sort of quantum processes, and the health of the body of water and your health are also linked.
Okay.
Yeah, I can continue on that topic, but that's
but basically we don't know. I mean, if it was so easy to alter your DNA, we should be able to eat that powdered DNA and have something happen in our bodies, right?
We eat food, and all the cells of the food contain DNA. So we pass through our cells a lot of DNA. And
but do we take on we don't, if I eat an apple, do I then take on DNA characteristics of an apple, or does that pass through me because it has no place in my body and I just simply have the nutrients of the apple? I mean, because there's, what basically the sun is not DNA splicing you. From what I gathered from what you're saying, which you've said a lot of other things around it, but the sun does not alter your DNA. The sun can influence your physical health. it can hurt you and it can also help you, but it's not necessarily altering your DNA. Is that right or not?
When you say alter DNA, there are two processes.
Well, I don't
One
know,
is
because altering DNA, if you alter someone's DNA, you're actually talking about messing with their physical structure. I mean, if you change someone's DNA, they cease to be completely, DNA is perfect in its sequence. It creates the human as we have it, with the two arms, the two legs, or a dog with its four legs. And if you change it, don't you just alter the species itself, and then it ceases to actually, it becomes a sort of mutation of the species within itself? If every time we walked in the sun it altered our DNA, what would that mean? Even I don't think that that's a valid thing, because I think the understanding what DNA is and what it does within the body is not the same as what is implied in that kind of question.
when you say alter DNA, there are two phenomena which we have to consider. One is altering the sequence,
right?
And the second is altering the structure.
Right.
When I say structure, is how it is folded. So the DNA can be, it's a long thing, it's 6 billion bases, and it can be folded in different ways. So it can be folded in a very nice, pretty crystallic structure and be coherent, and it can be folded in a messy structure, which is sick.
Mm-hmm.
So the sun, the UV does mutations, but they happen only on the skin, on the surface, and the body takes care of fixing the mutations and killing the cells which mutated too much.
And when it can't, you get sun cancer or skin cancer.
Yeah, skin cancer. By the way, skin cancer is pretty benign compared to other cancers because skin kind of grows out and then is flaked out. Skin cancer is usually easy to see, easy to remove, and it doesn't metastasize, except the melanoma, which is black skin cancer. So white skin cancer is easy to cut out and it doesn't metastasize. Black skin cancer is very dangerous. It metastasizes like crazy. So if you have black thing growing, it's urgent. And if it's white, it's also urgent, but not as urgent. So,
but that's also not DNA, is it?
Oh, that's a result of mutation of DNA by the sun.
Okay.
Skin cancer, 99% of it is, I mean, on the areas which are exposed to the sun is from UV from the sun.
But the DNA that is effective is topical. It's not.
Yeah, it's on the surface. It's top layer, top 10 layers of cells. Epidermis is affected.
So the sun in and of itself will mostly only affect the skin DNA, but not the entire structural or.
Yeah, I'm talking about UV mutations. UV doesn't go any further because it is absorbed by DNA very strongly. By the top layers of DNA of the cells, it's all absorbed. So yes, sun causes negative mutations, and be aware of skin cancer. And the best prevention is not to get sunburned.
Okay, what would you say about DNA infusions?
Wait. Yes, thanks. We are still.
We're still on the one subject. Sorry.
Still on the question: does the sun affect DNA?
Yeah.
So that is mainstream understanding. But the positive effects of the sun is through coherence and health and order and harmony, and it goes deeper. And it doesn't change your sequence of the DNA; it changes the folding of your DNA and its packaging into beautiful, harmonious, more complex helical and more complex structures. And that is not proven, but it's sort of implied pretty strongly. I believe it's pretty. I believe it pretty strongly. Yes. So it does change, make your DNA healthier in terms of shape, but it doesn't mutate it.
Okay.
And also, it's important to separate. Invigorate, yeah. It's important to separate your, it's called somatic DNA and how this called, sexual DNA, the one which is producing the offspring. So whatever happens to your body doesn't necessarily would be inherited by the children. So only the DNA in your sexual organs is that DNA needs to be mutated to be transmitted to the to the children.
Okay. Okay. So there was the next question, because we talk about, Safira has a question. Wait, Joan says, I believe it's activation mostly for the number 24 chromosomes. Quantum DNA is Pleiadian. I don't understand that. What she's saying there. She says, let me read it to you and you tell me if you understand. She says, I believe it's activation mostly for the sun, the DNA, what the sun impacts of the DNA. She believes it's activation mostly for the number 24 chromosomes, quantum DNA as Pleiadian DNA. Does that make sense to you or no? Maybe Joan, you can retype that. I don't know.
Let's talk about conspiracies. I want to talk about conspiracies.
No, let's not. Let's talk about science. So Savira says, can you talk about the We Vibe invention? Do you know what that is? The We Vibe invention?
No, I don't.
Okay, she doesn't know what that
That's
is.
Max, that's your invention. Isn't that called
Oh,
revive?
it's yeah, I don't want to mix that yet. They would be nervous about this. So it's nice that you
Oh.
misspelled it. So let's not mix that yet. There is some development which is more mainstream. I don't want them to be too much bothered. They kind of are nervous about that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So
They say I can say anything as an individual, but not as a representative of them. So yeah, I'm speaking as an individual, not a representative of any organization.
okay. All right.
So why don't you want to speak about conspiracies? It's so interesting.
What do you want? What conspiracy? There's so many.
Thank you. Yeah, so there is an evil force over the planet, and some people ignore it. Some people see lots of evidence that that evil force is doing something.
Okay. In what area?
Taking total control of the planet and depopulating it.
Yeah. I don't know. I have no evidence of that.
Oh, you don't? Yeah, so some people prefer to not to research that topic, and it's scary to research it. It's lots of fear and negativity comes with it. You really have to dive into something which is very unpleasant. So I don't
know if, because let me just interrupt you on that, and I'll let you finish in just 1 second. But there have been times when I brought up subjects to you about certain things, different conversation, just friendly conversation. And you've always said, your response has always been, and I like your response, well, that's happening probably on that timeline, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so if you don't really want to join that timeline and you want to create your own reality of life and creating your beautiful future through your focus, through, you know, the internal being reflected outwards, I don't know if you would give the attention to that. And I'm not trying to bypass a problem, but I don't know if that to me, everything in my, and then I know I can hear people going, well, you're paying attention to what's going on. But everything in my being is resistant to that idea. Not that there isn't people that have malicious intent, but my overall feeling about that particularly is if they wanted to do that, they could have done it already easily.
Oh, great point. Great point.
And why haven't they? And what's really stopping them? If they want to go in and take over the world, why not have militaries all over the world just go in and start shooting people? Just take them and just kill them. I mean, what would be seriously, why not? They could wipe out whole countries and depopulate most of, the vulnerable countries like sub-Saharan Africa. They could do it in like that. They could just knock them out. I mean, you want to talk about populations that maybe, are vulnerable and have nothing to do, and no offense to the people, they're very valuable and I think they deserve to be here. But I'm just saying, on a logistical thing, why not just start with the low-hanging fruit, which is the easiest method? You just knock out an entire, start with, and again, please, no offense to any of our African friends, but I'm just saying all the tribal people that are living below poverty and that are at such a level that they would not have the resources to resist. You could knock them out in a minute. You could depopulate like that. Why hasn't that been done? I mean, to me, it makes the most sense. But to have a few hundred people die here and a few hundred people die there, yeah, people die anyway. So, I would say if they really want to depopulate the earth, go to the place where crops can't grow at this moment, go to the place where people are starving, go in the place that is a drain on resources, as far as needing more than they're able to produce. I would say that would be, if I was planning that would be because I am a huge proponent of economy of movement. Nobody who wants to depopulate the planet wants to work that hard. So they would go for the easiest thing. They knock out those people like that. They would be gone. So that to me is like evidence that that's not what's happening. Or you have a bunch of idiots running the whole show that think they're really going to do something.
So what is happening?
So I don't know, but I don't think that. I think that we're caught in a level of separation mentality that has even gone even bigger now in the last, say, 10 years. It's gotten even worse, of this idea of there's not enough, that I better have mine before I have I better get mine, so, before you get yours. And this idea of, some people being better than other people. And that creates division and the dehumanization of a lot of people into groups, into segments. I think that is that divisiveness has kept us from understanding our connectiveness. So keeping people divided has kept us from actually moving forward as humanity. Because the thing that will allow us to move forward is if we truly are able to meet the needs of human beings. If people are fed, if people are educated, if they're healthy, if they have medical care, if they have places to live, education, water, these things is what's going to unite humanity. When you meet the basic needs of humans. But there's other people who are so convinced that greed is better, that they believe in the fact that they are this body. They believe in the fact that I'm better than you because I was born here and you were born there, or I speak this language and you don't. You see people who are trying to cross borders to search for a better life, and they're called, all kinds of names, and they're dehumanized, and you're like, they're taking our jobs. This one is doing this. I mean, that's the problem with humanity. But this idea of depopulation, I mean, get on with it already. If you want to depopulate the earth, just drop a bomb. Just get rid of the people. Just get rid of everybody, because whatever world you want, I don't know who you think's going to do the farming, but get rid of everybody already. I think this long, slow walk into this delirium of they're out to get us is only self-defeating. And I really don't want to be on that timeline. If that's the case, and maybe it's true, but it's not true for me. And it's never been true for me. And I've been watching since the 70s, all of these prophecies of California falling in the ocean and all of these things happening. And, I seem to be able to maneuver away from those timelines. So I'm going to definitely maneuver away from the one that has what's going on with you. I think that I just think if they're going to do it, they should do it. What's stopping them? And who are they? It's not just 3 people at the top. If it was 3 people at the top, then they could have done it already. boom, 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 push a button. People are gone, call it an accident, but they haven't done it. And why?
Oh, thank you. No, you made lots of nice points.
Well, I've thought about this a lot. I really have. And it's the same, I really have thought about it because this is a fear of a lot of people. This feeling, when I talk about it with my mother a lot, because my mother grew up poor, like poor, and there's something that happens when you feel powerless, when you don't have opportunity. Luckily, my mother and whatever was able to make a good life for herself, but there's many people who can't. And then I noticed doing psychic readings, people always want to know who's to blame for their circumstance. And a lot of times it is society, a lot of times it is circumstance. But the big thing is that anytime when people are in a state of feeling helpless, conspiracy rises. Conspiracy ideas rise. It does not mean there's not a lot of greed, that there's not inequality, that there's not all of these things, but it's not like those things cannot be changed or that people cannot affect change. But if you tell someone that they're powerless and they believe it, then they are frozen and they will not change their circumstance. If you look at just as an example, Appalachia, West Virginia, Kentucky, those areas, those areas have been devastated financially. There is nothing to do there. 85% of the people there, if not more, are on like crystal meth, heroin, and the entire population being decimated because of the lack of opportunity. And you're talking about a lot of people because of their mentality who do not believe in accepting help, from the government. They're very, very right wing. So they believe in, they're anti-government, they're anti-help. They're a lot of times very racist. There's all these things that make their worldview very small. They are self-destructing, incredibly so. And it's incredibly sad. And that's where my people are from. My people are from that little area. So you just see those people in a no-win situation for themselves, and they need intervention. But what has come in is people who have nefarious things, who see vulnerable people and get them hooked on drugs. And then it becomes generational. Their mother, their grandmother, everybody all the way down their line is now a heroin addict, crystal meth addict, and they're dying out. But that's a certain situation, but it doesn't mean it can't be changed. But again, it falls down to, are their basic needs being met? Some of these people don't even have electricity. Do they have electricity? Do they have clean water? Do they have all of these things? But is that a conspiracy to depopulate the earth? Or is it a huge evidence of man's inhumanity to man? Selfishness based in the knowledge of we do not know who we are as true divine beings. And I think that's the problem. We either know who we are or we don't, and we live accordingly. And what you said earlier about people being materialistic and spiritual, that's spiritual bypassing. I can be so spiritual, but I can kill an animal for food. I can be so spiritual and I can say, well, you're not, you're evil because you like this politician or don't, or, I don't want those kind of people coming into my country. That's what's wrong here. It's not about great big, aliens in the sky who are, if they're so all powerful, do it already. Depopulate the earth. But don't sit there and scheme. I mean, either if they want to do it, they don't have a very good plan, because the population of the earth is growing every single year. We are not on a downward slide. We are on an upward slant. So do it already. Bring it. I don't think they will, because I don't think it's happening. That's my
All right.
that's
Yeah,
my point.
yeah, you did a lot of good points, and the argument, do it already, I think it's a very emotional argument, but it doesn't examine the truth properly. What
Well,
you want to
why?
say,
though? Because if my answer the question of if they why haven't they done it already? And why are they taking so long to do it?
right? Great question. And another question is the Earth actually overpopulated? Maybe it's not.
Well, there are. I mean, Earth has a lot of people, but natural selection sometimes takes care of that. But yeah, Earth has got a good
We
many.
channeled some civilizations which have like 1,000 times more people, and they kind of support themselves just fine. Like trillions, they have trillions, and it's a question: do we have too much population for the current level of consciousness and current level of cooperation? Basically, we have too many people for that kind of human, for that kind of consciousness.
Yeah.
If we were to live together and more cooperatively, we would easily live much happier. But we are,
Yes,
as
but
a species, we compete.
you're looking at the result and not the core of the problem. In societies where women are educated, where people go to school, and where people have clean water and things like that, the population goes down. Do you know that?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So what is the solution? Eliminate people or educate them? I mean,
You asking me?
yeah,
Yeah, I'm
because
desperate. I think both types are pretty suicidal in terms of society.
education is suicidal.
Look at the West. West is suicidal.
Well, not all the West.
Not all.
No.
California is pretty.
California is, are you talking about the west of the US? Yeah, I'd say the US
No,
is.
no. Yeah, I think the whole Western civilization is
No, I don't think that's true.
screwed. Yeah,
I don't think so.
and Eastern too. I think the whole planet is in a crisis.
But the thing is that we do have some time. And if we were to meet the basic needs of people, and we were to, then the lack of nothing to do, the lack of subjugation of women would lead to a more informed society, a society that had, probably less children, because the women would be productive parts of society, not that they're not, but in the other cultures, and they would be producing and they would be able to, one of the reasons why agriculture and things and those haven't taken hold in a lot of the countries that need food is because of the corruption. But those are also the very countries that subjugate the women and do all of these things. And so what I'm saying is that there is a solution to overpopulation, but it doesn't necessarily mean we have to depopulate in an active, aggressive, violent sense. And so, the idea of depopulation is a very short-sighted, small-minded, overreactive, fear-based reaction.
I agree.
But so you think it's happening from who? Powers of where? If
Yes.
powers, what
Yeah,
powers? Which ones?
I think I think it's I don't want to pronounce these words, but yes, there is like non-human powers. How about that?
Well, again, if they're that powerful to depopulate the earth, why didn't they do it already?
I think they want control most of all, and I think the control they have the plans to instill this control using some computerized means and technology and also genetic engineering.
Okay, so why haven't they done it already? I mean, if they have the power to do it, they have the power to conceive it, they have the power to be above the whole planet, why don't they just come in and bring it? Or do we have to discover the computer programs first and then implement them, and then they're going to take us over?
In terms of computerization, yeah, I mean, there is a lot of research there. And surprising fact is that the countries which are poor used to have bad internet. And somehow the global secret government financed bringing internet into the countries which can't afford it. So it looks like they have the ulterior motives just to plug everybody into internet and then control through internet. The example is Greece. Greece had terrible internet, and then some international corporations just came in and they have like super good internet now, like as good as an American one. And same thing with Africa. They might have very little of everything, but internet is everywhere. Somehow, I think that's part of the global control idea. They have somehow want to trace everyone and then control everyone. China introduced, I think it's called social score, or some sort of social behavior score, where people are directed what to do. They get jobs if they behave nicely, and they lose jobs if they don't behave nicely.
Who does that? Who?
China. So I think that's the global secret government. They want everybody.
Is that true? Is that true?
I Googled it, looked very, very much true, yeah.
What is it called?
Social score. I think it's a translation from Chinese, but basically everyone gets a score according to their behavior, and if the score goes down, they lose privileges.
I'm just looking to see. It was introduced in the 1980s. Proponent argues that it would help eliminate problems such as food safety issues.
I mean, it's worth researching. I think it's interesting. Okay, I mean, you made a great point that not everyone would benefit from researching the conspiracies. Like some people will
That's what
have.
you got out of my whole speech.
No, I think you are right. Like everyone has their own life purpose, life path, life lessons. And I'm a researcher. For me, just I get kick out of that. And when I see the whole system, how it is designed, how it's manipulated. Basically, it's not only one message. I think there is a secret government, and I think it's controlled, multi-layered, and it's controlled by non-humans on top.
Mm-hmm.
But I think also it loses control, and the evolution of the planet is such that we will break free and become independent.
I don't know if you believe this, but I have this knowing that I will say that there's a fail-safe built into awareness, even if you come at it from a negative standpoint. And what I mean by that is you can approach knowledge from many different angles. You can approach them from a very negative angle. You can approach it from what is perceived a very positive angle. But when you truly get to true knowledge, the awareness of who we really are overrides the entire system.
Mm-hmm.
So you may be seeking things for your own gain. You may have nefarious intent, but if you truly, because everyone's trying to crack open the code of what makes a human, what gives life. And when you really do touch it, I believe it transforms, and I believe it nullifies it, because if you truly remember what we said, when you die and you remember who you are, you cease to be. And I think that's why humanity can only get to a certain level of destructiveness. Because, I mean, we could destroy ourselves, we could blow ourselves up, and we could do that for many, many years. But I'm just saying, the actual idea of really something completely taking over. I think there's a fail-safe built in to it, into the system, so it can never really go as far as what we think. That's just I believe that to be so, because if you truly have the knowledge of who you are, truly, once you click into that, you can't know anything else. You can I could no longer know myself as Karen. I could only know myself as the all that is. And from there, what is my motivation? Nothing. No motivation. I just am. And I think that's true with everything.
Coming to the end of the discussion, so there are certain topics which are censored by Facebook and YouTube, and this relates to physical body and biology of the physical body. So we can't mention these topics. And I researched a little bit. I found a platform called DTube. It's a temporary platform. It might be taken over by the evil, or it can just be destroyed. But at the moment, it's not censoring things. So we can discuss things on Zoom and post them on DTube, and our accounts and our groups in Facebook and YouTube channel.
Not Facebook.
What?
No Facebook.
What I'm saying, our groups will be safe. We wouldn't discuss it on Facebook.
Yeah, no
We
Facebook.
can.
Facebook or
I wanted to finish the sentence that our main platforms are Facebook group and YouTube. We can keep these topics away from them, and but we can still do Zoom and DTube, which are not censored.
Mhm.
And also we have a website which, so if by any chance, God forbid, any of the platforms is closed, you know how to find us. It's Hucolo will pop up anywhere. Max Rempel, Jim Charles channeling, Karen Newman, you'll find it's hard not to find us if you Google for us. Yeah, I'm everywhere. I have site maxrempel.com and several more sites. I'm everywhere. So it's easy to find us.
Yeah.
My point is, maybe we want to do a webinar discussing things openly, just not to post it on YouTube.
Okay. When do you want to do it?
Whenever.
We can do it in a month from now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's book
We'll
a
do it and
date
discuss it.
after that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to look at the calendar, but yeah.
What's a month from now? Would be about the 10th, the 9th, the 9th. No, the 9th, I have somebody. Actually, I have Costa coming on the 9th.
Costa is great.
Yeah, he's coming, and his wife, Hollis, are coming on the 9th. But we could do it on the 10th of November, or whatever that weekend is, 2 months from now.
You think things will remain the same 2 months from now? It will be so different. The world will be completely changed. Anyway,
I have knowledge that things are really going to shift really in March.
in March, okay.
That's my feeling.
So November is good then. November 6th is good. So Max
Okay.
Karen,
Yeah.
November 6th.
On DTube.
No, we do the same Zoom. We just don't publish it on YouTube. We publish it on
But for the people who are in YouTube, you'll have to find us
We'll,
on YouTube.
we'll give a link to, I know how to upload the recording, but to do broadcast, I have to find out how to do that.
If we can do it. Okay.
But DTube is good. It's kind of decentralized. It's hackers YouTube or something like that.
Okay, cool. We'll do it.
Okay. Is it okay? I put it in my calendar. What I wanted just to mention that I lived in Russia through the fall of the Soviet Union,
Yes.
and before it fell, everybody was saying, it's a conspiracy theory. Do you really believe that? Could this system be so rotten?
Mhm.
And there was a mainstream like now, and there was underground like now.
Mhm.
But then it went to clear. It was like pure experience. In your life, you can experience the whole disclosure, and the cards are open, and you can see like who was actually a criminal. And the whole story was, if you're interested before then you can have your intuition checked with real facts.
Mhm.
So that's what gives me hope that now the new conspiracies also will, in our lifetime, will be disclosed, and we'll have the complete disclosure, more or less complete disclosure, and we'll check again if our intuitions were right.
I don't deny that there are a lot of criminal people with a lot of bad, selfish intent. I just reject the idea of this sort of. It would have. I just think to talk about what you're talking about. I think do it already.
How about FEMA camps?
Well, FEMA camps have been a fear of people for a long time, but they didn't happen. Did they happen? Do you know people?
No, but they exist.
Sure, they do, but they exist. But are they filled with people?
I hope not. But no, I think there are several forces, and one of them, is pretty evil, and others are less evil.
Let's take, and it's very painful to think about it. It's so awful to think about is Afghanistan right now. Look how within one day their culture it changed. It is now they're in a different government. They're with a different set of rules. These people are, doing what they feel that they're supposed to do for whatever reason, but the people in the country now are subjected to a government that they didn't have the day before. I mean, it fell in 24 hours. So for them, that was a quantum shift from one thing to the other. Literally from one moment to the next, their life was different in a huge way.
Yeah, and now I'm doing this Russian song club, International Russian Song Club. It's troubadour songs, and lots of people come to us from Ukraine, and they have this ongoing war there.
Yeah.
In the middle of Russia,
right.
Parts of Russia separated, and now one part is attacking another, trying to grab space, territory. So they leave and while being shot at, and the same thing in Israel. Yeah. So let's give a chant. I don't know, what can we do? Let's chant for healing of that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, na 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 na. Oh, mama, 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 mama. Shalana ya ya ya. Oh, ma. Shalana ya ma. Oh.
Thank you.
And you wanted to mention 9/11 also.
I did, just the chant was beautiful, and I think we can maybe do one more for everyone remembering 9/11. Most of us were here. We had a discussion before we went on air of where we were and what we were doing, and the many people that we've lost and continue to experience, the workers there, the mentality of the world that led to 9/11. That's really at the core.
And of course, it was an
healing.
inside job, right?
Well, it was a destructive event that changed the world forever, and we should send healing to, and we will ask that the healing goes to that which created that event, the mentality from wherever it came that would create that event. The people who created that event, they need healing. They need to be healed mentally.
True.
So that they remember who they are, because they're very much living in a separation mentality.
Yeah, in Russia, we also had an event like that, actually, two. One was Chernobyl, and another one was the failed putsch, failed takeover of the power in 91.
Mhm.
And these events, and assassination of Kennedy, they kind of synchronize the whole country. The whole country has a trauma, but then it's synchronized, like the waves of it go, and it actually creates some of the unity. It creates separation, but also it creates unity. So,
Within
and
the
now,
yeah.
and now the whole world has another series of events which also created a wave, which is a huge wave. So, but we now focus on 9/11 because today is 9/11.
Yeah.
Do you want to do a chant?
Well, I would do it. Everyone can chant with me. It's the peace chant, which is Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu, and it means may all the beings in all the world be happy and be free.
It's my favorite one too. I cannot chant in Zoom because it doesn't allow chanting two people together, but I will
we can do
mute
it.
myself and
Mute
do it.
yourself. We'll do Om, then we'll do the chant 3 times, then we'll do Om, chant, Shanti, 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 which is peace, peace, peace. And we'll do that together. So if you don't know it, if you don't know the mantra, it's Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. And it's not Bhavantu, but like a Bhavantu with that soft exploration. The Ba of Bhakti, love. So may all the beings in all the world be happy and free. Yeah. Okay. Deep breath in. Om. We'll do 3 Oms. Om. Om. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. May all the beings in all the world be happy and free. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So we're over time. Thank you, everyone. Next week, Jim will be back and we will continue our fantastic discussions. Thank you to everyone on YouTube. Thank you to everyone in the room. Thank you, Max, for being here.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Well,
I
we're not-
love both chants.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Didn't we want to do galactic language from Angie? I think that's why she popped up.
Yes, we do. We want to, but Christine starts saying goodbye. So not yet, Christine.
Sure.
Go ahead, Angie. Yeah. Good.
Ashikwa te ka nia te ki o ka a. Huara ara te kuiara nia te ka chika te kunomoa. Ira ka tua amanda ka taka shikata a. Waha taka na no kutia chishiki a te ka a. Wama haya te ia na oa te chiki. Mi anka na ai te chika. U asa na a pataki e ana chika mo ana. I hana oro tuku. Wa ara na ia chisha. Namaste.
Utakayam ata utana hamahana ikta ata mahaha.
Did you want to do a blessing down there?
Are you talking to me?
I am.
Yes, I can do one.
Okay.
Yeah. Tue sikia tukutia I sukutukuya I tikia ua I sikia sukutukia tukuya I tukuya siki tuku tikia I sukutia tukuya I skia tukuya tikia tukuya I tukuitia I tukutikia I sukutukia I tukuya takaya tukuya hoi sikia tikia tukuya.
Isaha saha omaha asaha asana.
Angie, did anyone else want to do a blessing that's here? I don't see on the screen. Christine, anyone? Okay. Angie has some announcements. Go ahead, Angie.
Thank you. We have our upcoming work class. It is level 3 white magic. It is Saturday and Sunday, October 23rd and 24th, 1:30 to 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. And the price is $175. We are limiting the class participation to 20 so that all information and questions will be able to be answered. If you're interested, please send an email to classes@hucolo.org and I will get that information out to you. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. So thank you, everyone. It's been always nice to talk to Max. We get to stretch our minds a little bit and embrace some high-level concepts.
Mind yoga.
Mind yoga. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right, everyone. Much love to you. We'll see you next week. Jim will be back and Max will be back in 2 months. Well, you can come back before then, but we'll be back with a discussion with you before then.